All right, well, I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. My name is Mark Hafner, and I'm a senator here with the Republic for the United States in Missouri. And this is a 4th of July kind of an update to the first video we did back in January 15th down in Ozark, Missouri. And want to tell you right off that this video may not be the one you should watch first. If I tell you that your birth certificate, your marriage license, your driver's license, your Social Security card, marriage licenses, and voter registration, all these things have made you a corporate entity and put you under commercial law, and you really don't have the protection of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights anymore at all. And in those privileges that they've granted you through these licenses, they have total control of adjusting the privileges and fining you if you don't follow their deals. So if you don't understand any of that, and if you also don't understand that our Republican form of government that was given to us by the Constitution and by the Founding Fathers actually ended in 1861 by the lawyer who happened to occupy the White House named Abraham Lincoln, and they reconvened the running of this country as a corporation, total fraudulently done, and that has trickled down to every state and local government, every courthouse are now just corporations. If you don't understand that, you need to watch the first video first. It's called The Change Your Founders Believed in, Republic of Missouri. It can be found on Patriots Unite Now YouTube site, or you can find it on the education page of the republicforarizona.org website. For those of you that have seen the first video, this is going to be a 4th of July update with a short review, and also answer some questions that have come in on the internet. So the quick review is, in 1861, what was happening in the country was the international bankers working with the lawyer in the White House wanted the rest of the public lands of all the additional republics to be added to the collateral for the national debt for the next 70 years. And the southern states said, we're not giving you our public lands as collateral, and they seceded. Well, when they seceded, Lincoln, the lawyer, says, no problem, we'll just start a corporation and reconvene. And they did. The reason I'm bringing that up, because it's covered in detail in the first video, is when they reconvened, the seats of the Republic, the President and the Congress, those seats were vacated. They weren't abolished. They were vacated. What we have done last year in 2010 is we have re-inhabited those seats. That's what has happened. This is a historical event, and it's impacting the whole planet. Everything that's been done since then, and there's a lot of stuff that's been done, has all been done fraudulently. It's all been done to the American people to basically put the wealth and the power into the hands of crooked politicians, and even more so into the hands of the international wealthy. This fraud and deception runs deep. One of the criticisms of the first video is, well, we need more details. Do you understand that there's been over 100 years of deception? And in this 100 years, they have done so many things for what they say to the public is one reason, and what they've actually done is for another reason. And it would take you literally weeks of videos with, you know, hundreds of slides of documentation from archives and certified copies from archives to document all this stuff, but the documentation is there. So one of the things they get is, well, this couldn't possibly be true. Americans aren't that stupid. No, we're not stupid, so how did they do this? There had been several attempts at putting a central bank into this country from the founding of our country, and they were all very short-lived. And the reason they were short-lived, because there was a few politicians that weren't on the tape with the bankers, and we had a free press. So between the free press and the few politicians that would speak out against the central bank as being completely, totally unconstitutional, and every one of them has been, the public understood through the newspapers that it was wrong, and public opinion demanded that the central bank be put back down. So they understood that if they were really going to get all the money out of the country and really suck us as dry as they wanted to, that they were going to have to get a central bank installed in this country, and it was going to have to stick. It couldn't just live for a few years. So they put together a long-term strategy. And their long-term strategy started probably before this, but they all met on Jekyll Island in 1912. And the international rich and the American wealthy, like the Rockefellers and various other families, and I'm just tired, and forgive me if I muddle some names, okay? The J.P. Morgans of the world got together, and they put together a 20-year strategy to put together the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve Act went through, it was concocted in 1912, didn't actually go through until 20 years later. What they did during that 20 years, starting in 1912, was they got together, these rich people, and they bought 25 of the largest newspapers in the United States. And they replaced all the editors. And they told these editors strict rules of what they would say about central banks, about the economy, about the Constitution, about all this stuff. And then when they intentionally crashed the economy in 1929, then the newspapers are saying, oh, well, if we only would have had the Federal Reserve, if we only would have had the central bank, we wouldn't be all in bread lines, and we wouldn't have all lost all these jobs, and the crash wouldn't have happened. It was all manufactured. It was a false flag. If you don't know what a false flag is, you need to do some research. And so the American people, who'd been dumbed down by a controlled media for 20 years, begged for the Fed to come through. Please save us from this poverty. Well, the deception continued after that. When radio stations began to have more of an impact on American information and culture than newspapers, they bought the radio stations, and they bought the TV stations, and they bought the satellite and the cable TVs. And it all goes back, and do a Google search called "Who Owns the Media? Council on Foreign Relations," and you'll get some wonderful information. You don't go anywhere in politics, you don't go anywhere in media in this country unless you're a part with the Council on Foreign Relations. The international bankers, the American bankers, the politicians, and the broadcasters, all behind closed doors, orchestrating what we believe and what we're told. Ah, but a new form of media has come out. It's called the Internet. And they haven't been able to replace the editor of the Internet just yet. They're working on it. But because the Internet's been around for a while, there's literally millions of Americans that understand the stuff that we're talking about in the first video, and many other videos, and in Canada, and Australia, and over in England, and all over the world. Anywhere there's a central bank, anywhere the Federal Reserve's involved in any way, shape, or form, you're being sucked the money right out of you. And they don't deserve it, and it's all done through fraud. So, the media of the Internet has been their downfall. Now, the American people have been lied to for over 100 years. And if that's true, they bear some responsibility because we trusted them. Well, maybe we could have investigated it, but they've tried very hard to bury the correct information, to change the histories in public schools, and they've worked really hard on this deception. So shame on them. They fooled us once. But now that there's millions of Americans that understand this, and we have support from around the world in other countries, now it's different. Now if we don't do something, we have acquiesced. Acquiescence is, hey, I'm going to come over and sit on your lap in 5 minutes. And if I say that in front of these witnesses and he says nothing, and 5 minutes from now I go over there and sit on his lap, he's really got no beef with me because he didn't protest. He didn't say no. He acquiesced. He actually, in the presence of witnesses, gave me permission to sit on his lap because he didn't protest. He didn't say no, I don't want you to do that. That's not the right thing to do. Now, I'm not going to go sit on his lap, just for the record, but that's what acquiescence is. We have millions of Americans that know the video content of the first video in January and other videos that are out there. The Internet media that is free has explained this with a lot of documentation that this is all true. If we don't rise up and do something about it now, we deserve whatever the bankers give us. We've acquiesced. It is time for us to unite and to do something. Now, as far as I'm concerned, because I have 9 children and 7 grandchildren, I don't want on my conscience that I understood this stuff and didn't work hard to stop it from continuing, because their future plans for our country are not very good. Their future plans for our prosperity and for our freedoms are not very good. I don't want it on my conscience, so I'm trying to work hard.